Hi everyone, this is your host Prasha and welcome to her STEM Stories episode number 90. And this is a solo series that I started a few months ago where I am taking you through actionable and amazing tips that you can use in your science, technology, engineering, or mathematics careers. And a lot of these tips can be used in any careers in general. And my hope is to empower you with these tools that can take you from being anxious in your careers to feeling super confident in your career so you can go ahead and conquer it with a lot of confidence. So that's the whole mission of this series, and I'm so excited that you're joining us today. So let's get started. So goal settings, we talked about that in the last episode, and I really encourage you to go back and tune in to some clarity exercises that I talked about in that episode. And then today's episode is about doing it. Like setting SMART goals is the smartest thing you can do in 2020. So let me break it down with an example. So the show, Her STEM Story, started in December of 2017. And at the time, of course, one of my goals was to just start a show and just have a podcast. But I didn't have any goals as such all the way until December 2018, actually. So I spent an entire year just building the show, perfecting my craft, learning more about podcasting, understanding what I really want from the show, what I really want from myself from this experience. And in kind of January to March 2019, I started focusing on, okay, now it makes sense, like things I really want to improve on and the impact I really want to make. So my bigger mission statement is more like impacting the minorities in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, also known as STEM. And I really want to impact and close the gender gap in STEM professions by bringing these stories to the daylight. So sharing stories of minorities that are doing so well in their STEM careers, and they're also breaking stereotypes. So this is huge. And so when I decided to think about the goals and I decided to bring on some volunteers to help me in the process, one of the biggest things I had to think about was, what is it that I really want from this show? And how do I really quantify it? And so the impact, it's really hard to measure impact. And I wanted to quantify how to make this show successful and what that success would really look like. So I took something that I do at work, which is SMART goals, which we do every year, just like any big corporations. We would do SMART goals at work. And I thought about it and I'm like, wait, what if I took this concept of how we set up goals at work and how we see improvement, and I brought it to the show, and let's see how that works. And so that's how SMART goals kind of became a part of my journey. And for Her STEM Story, first thing we had to do, and I had to do, was mostly to understand the key performance indicators. So at work, I have a certain set of key performance indicators that are given to me by corporate, and I'm sure that's the same for a lot of you guys. But for something like this, which is your project, your baby, if you will, how do you come up with those key performance indicators? So I tried to kind of reverse engineer the impact, the success that I was trying to go for, and bring it into key performance indicators. Now, for me, those ended up being, downloads. So I can, that's something I can definitely use as a key performance indicators. That means that if the number of downloads goes up, that's directly proportional to how the people are liking it and how many people are listening in. So that was definitely one thing. Social media following. So of course the impact I have on people through social media, because a lot of people will also consume my content in a non-podcast format. So that seemed like a great KPI. So if I can really make better engagement of my content and reach more people through social media, then I can promote my episodes to more people, and then again make impact in the end. So that was our second KPI that I definitely wanted to focus on. And number 3 was consistency in episodes and production. So bringing you episodes more consistently and kind of bringing more diverse guests, so kind of enriching that that side of things, which is more like production and how many episodes I produce every week, every month, and so on and so forth. So just to give you a little idea, in December of 2018, Her STEM Story only had about 36 episodes. In December of 2018, I only had about 4,100 downloads total. And in December 2018, I only had about 185 something people on Instagram following me, and about somewhere around 2,000 or 1,800 on Twitter. So that was like the baseline for those key performance indicators. And so the reason I spend a little bit of time on key performance indicators here is that you really want to focus on those, because this is how you're going to really have a SMART goal. Because if you don't have good KPIs, good performance indicators, then it's really hard to measure improvement or progress or growth. So it's really important. So another example could be if someone is trying to, lose weight or gain muscle, then, those can be your key performance indicators. If someone's trying to improve their pace in running, their pace is the key performance indicator, because that's what you really want to improve, because that in turn will improve your longer goal or vision or mission. So those were the key performance indicators that I chose to track in March of 2019. And kind of build a strategy around it. So it's really important to have performance indicators, because then you can really think in a more organized way and put your efforts in the right direction. So let's take one of the goals that Her STEM Story had and talk about this SMART goals and what does it even mean. And so SMART is an acronym for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. So any goal that you come up with should have all these 5 criteria. It should satisfy all the 5 criteria, because then it becomes more likely that you can design a strategy around it. And so it has been followed in, as I said, in industries across the world, and it's really a great system. And so you should definitely think about it as a best practice when it comes to goal setting. So for Her STEM Story, as I said, the first part was the KPI. So if you're starting a project, if you're starting a new side hustle or anything like that, you should definitely consider thinking about key performance indicators and seeing how they kind of relate to your final mission or your bigger goal, which can be vague, which can be, I really want to be successful, but then you kind of work your way backwards to what does success mean like in this particular arena, project, or whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. And so once those were decided, like my biggest thing was, okay, let's talk about downloads. So my goal was to, grow the downloads. That was my first instinct, right? So how did I turn that into a SMART goal, right? So if I had only 4,000 downloads at the time, I really wanted to get to 30,000 downloads by end of 2019. So that was a number that I saw my contemporaries reach. I saw people that I really admire reach, and I really wanted to get there. So I focused on 30,000 downloads. Now that became a part of the SMART process, right? Because the specificity is, again, key performance indicators. Measurable, also key performance indicators, because the way you're going to select that performance indicator, you have to make sure that you can measure it. So I can measure my downloads in Libsyn. That's where I host my podcast. So very, very measurable. I know I can check it every single day, every single second. I can just run reports for different dates and times. And so really cool, made sense. So it's still satisfying the specificity. It's satisfying the measurable criteria. And then let's get to attainable. So is it even attainable? If I said I want 1 million downloads by the end of December 2019, I think that would be extremely aggressive, almost unattainable from a strategic standpoint, because we don't want to rely on hopes and wishes and luck and, oh my God, I wish I go viral. But we really want to think about things that we can control and things that can support our strategic planning. And so when I think about it, 30,000 seemed attainable because I could work it backwards and decide the different ways I can reach there. So that's attainable. Relevant, obviously it should be relevant to what I'm trying to do. So if I'm trying to grow my podcast, I cannot have a goal that says, I should have like 1 million subscribers on YouTube, or I should have like 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. Now, how is that relevant to my podcast? It's not. It obviously will help grow the podcast, but in the end, it's not relevant to the scope of this particular goal and also to the scope of the impact that I'm trying to make with this particular medium. So that's where relevancy comes in. So it has to be relevant, and then timely. Of course, timely is really important. So if you don't put a timeline on it, you're very likely not to achieve it. And you're very likely going to fail at planning properly. So at the time, the timeline that I gave myself was a whole year. So I said by December 2019. And then I broke it down into, like quarters. So I said, okay, from March to, let's say, July, and then from July to September, and then September to December. That's how I'm going to review this goal. And timeliness is super important because it creates a few different things. It creates urgency. So really being urgent with your efforts. It also creates a focus of your efforts. So focused effort really moves the needle faster than unfocused effort. So timeliness is super important. So my non-SMART goal would have been, I really want this podcast to be successful someday, right? That would be non-SMART. And so the SMART goal is, I want my podcast to have 30,000 downloads by December 2019. So very cool. I have a number attached to it. I know that it's downloads, so it's very specific. I know I can measure it because I have a way of measuring it. So for example, when we talk about impact a lot of times, and if we just said, I wish I can impact a lot of people, and that again is non-SMART, because what does that impact mean? How are you going to work it backwards? Are you going to be able to measure it? Is it going to be specific? Is it going to be relevant? Is it going to be timely? So it's really, really important to think about all your goals in this particular fashion, because then you can really put strategy to it. So let's talk about the same example of my downloads, right? And how did I strategize by using the SMART methodology? Because I knew this was smart. I knew this was doable. I have used this technique at work and I know it really works. So I knew it is possible. So first of all, it gave me a lot of confidence because I knew what I was doing and I was just not wishy-washy and like hoping and praying and, depending on Mother Nature to somehow give this to me. And also I knew this was attainable because a lot of the things that are going to go into this, achieving this goal, are under my control, which means I control that, the inputs. So you have to also remember the part about, attainable is also very important, because you cannot set goals for other people or things that you can't influence, right? So you cannot set goals for policy making or things that are out of your control, or even climate, for example, weather. Like how can you make a goal that is supported or that depends on weather heavily? So you can't, right? So really think about those things, that what is it that you can control? How can you use the SMART format to really translate your goal, because you'll really see progress. And so I took the SMART goal and I did some strategic thinking. And one of the biggest thing I did was, I can't do this alone. I need more inputs of ideas and again, more people that can really help me think out of the box. And so first thing I did was put out a call for volunteers, and I was really, really lucky that I got really wonderful people who came forward to support me for free. And so that was number one. Number two, I knew that the branding somehow lacked the lack and luster that I really wanted, the image that I really wanted, and the image that I saw on iTunes and other platforms, and I really wanted that. So number two was, rebranding. So these were some big foundation things that I knew that I had to do to get to that goal, and I kind of worked my way through it, and then we went into a full rebranding and we did the whole rebranding strategy. So these are the kind of strategic moves you can take as well once you realize what that big KPI looks like, and you can really go after it. So I'm really happy to share with you that I did reach the goal really like 2 weeks ago or so, and again, this is a huge growth. It's about 466% growth from last year. And that's huge because, again, you have to focus on growth numbers, right? So it's great to have SMART goals and it's great to have a strategy, but you also have to remember there is a hidden figure here, which is growth, and you really have to use that to your best benefit. And I would love to also tell you that I would also love to share here that her STEM story was topping charts worldwide in Apple iTunes charts in the documentary category, and it is so cool to see that, because we we peaked at number 37 in September in the US alone. We were top 25 in Canada, top number 4 actually in India, number 1 in Saudi Arabia. So the show is doing phenomenal, but it all started from when I thought about my goals and my aspirations for the show in a smart way. So I really hope that you would take this as an inspiration and use this methodology for all your goals in 2020. And to help you out, I have designed a freebie, a actual SMART goals checklist just for you. And so you can use the links in the episode notes and go download it. And you're going to love it. Just make as many copies as you want. It's 2 goals per sheet, super simple to use, and make as many copies as you want. Brainstorm, talk to your friends, talk to your team, really start thinking about strategy, start thinking about SMART goals. And then next week, we'll talk a little bit more about strategic planning and how to kind of make these goals come to life in 2020 and things you can do to get yourself set on that path. And seriously, thank you so much for all the love. Thank you so much for helping us climb the charts. If you really like our show, please leave us a review on iTunes. Starting January, I'll be reading the reviews and every week. So my favorite review, I'm going to read it every week. And please help us reach more audience, because I think this content is so amazing. And thank you so much for listening. And happy holidays to everyone who is celebrating in the US and abroad. And I'll see you right before New Year's. Bye.